I don't really know how to make the noise that I wanted to make at the beginning of this video without breaking your freaking ears, but finally, it has happened. We have gotten an in-depth dive into Game of Thrones Season 8 from Entertainment Weekly. In this video, I'm going to go over every single line of importance that was said in that 3-page article. Before we begin, this video will contain massive spoilers for Game of Thrones Season 8. Before we get started, please slap a like on this video as the like goal is going to be 420. Also, make sure you're subscribed, and then this is the most important part. Make sure you have your notifications turned on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a Game of Thrones video, for the long night is going to be ending in March. Okay, so let's start off with that very most important information. Now, about, I would say, 2/3 of the way through scrolling down this article. Now, I'm looking at it from mobile, so it may be different when you're looking at it from the PC. But on my phone, I scroll about halfway down, and as you can see, this image right here says March 2018, the final season. Now, there's no really other text surrounding this picture, and it just says March 2018, but we do know that HBO does everything official Game of Thrones related through Entertainment Weekly. So the fact that they just threw that in the middle of the article with kind of no other text surrounding it makes me think that this is like, hey, not only are we releasing, or we're giving information from actors on set that we walked around, we got to see this, we have several quotes from them to discuss in this video, but also, here's the release date. Not the actual date, but the month that it's going to be coming out in. Now, we kind of all knew that it was going to be between March and April because the cutoff for the Emmys of this year means that they have to have a certain amount of episodes out by a certain date. As always, there's a tiny chance that this could be, just sort of misleading and this could be their best guess at when it's going to be out. But from the sounding of this article, they have completely finished filming and most of the post-production is likely done. In my opinion, they're probably working on the trailer. With that being said, quick side note, there are a few people over on Reddit/FreeFolk who have looked on the Game of Thrones private playlist, and they do have a video that was not there before that is set to private. So could this be the Game of Thrones Season 8 trailer? I don't know, but I freaking hope so. Another line from the article that drew my attention, and it's not necessarily dire for Game of Thrones Season 8, but there was an initial idea to have 3 2-hour length movies that would comprise the entirety of Game of Thrones Season 8. Now, the directors, Dan and Dave, they wanted to release it in theaters, but that was shot down from the brass to the higher-ups at HBO. In my opinion, that would have been a great way to end the season, but to be honest, I feel like we would have had to wait a lot longer than a week in between those movies if they have done it that way. You guys let me know what you think about that down below. Okay, so the article starts off with a description of the table read. Now, I'm just going to quickly read a few paragraphs of that because it gave me chills. When Kit Harington entered the conference room, we had no idea what to expect. The final season scripts had just been emailed a couple days earlier, sending the Game of Thrones cast into a reading frenzy. Like millions of fans around the world, the actors had been waiting for nearly a decade to learn their character's fate. The entire 6-episode season arrived at once. Now, this next part's the most important part. When Sophie Turner received her copies, she flew through them in record timing. She is quoted as saying, "It was completely overwhelming. Afterwards, I felt numb and I had to take a walk for hours." Now, I don't need to be a super analyzing scientist there, but it sounds to me as though Sansa, Sophie Turner, just read about her death. Now, of course, you could say that everyone who reads the script would react this way, but in my opinion, the fact of feeling numb and just, not all the way there and that you have to kind of walk around for hours at a time to just sort of get your mind off it is that you die in the end of Game of Thrones Season 8. Now, I love Sansa Stark, and I know she's one of the most, we'll say splitting of characters, but you either love her or you hate her. But judging from Sophie Turner's quote, I would say that Sansa Stark dies in the end of Game of Thrones Season 8. Then the next quote is from Emilia Clarke, and she talks about how when she read the script, she said she was with her best mate and she had to rush out the door saying, I've got to go. Then she finally gets home, she settles down with a cup of tea, and she's quoted as saying, after reading it, genuinely the effect it had on me was profound. Now, when you listen to the description of Sophie Turner compared to how Emilia Clarke read it, obviously they're two different people with two different personalities, so they're going to take and interpret things different ways. But to me, it sounds like Emilia Clarke, for the most part, sits the Iron Throne at the end, or at the very least, survives. Then the last sort of quote that I want to take from the actors before I go into the spoilers of the person who was actually on the filming set in Titanic Studios in Belfast, Northern Ireland. The last quote is from Peter Dinklage, and he mentions that normally he has this, routine that when he gets it, he skips to the end to see if he survives, but this time he didn't do that. He broke his long habit of checking immediately to see if he survives. And then he's quoted as saying, "This was the first time ever that I didn't skip to the end." Real short and sweet there. If you want to know any sort of spoilers about Tyrion and his fate this season, check out this link right here and go and watch that video. His fate, I think has been confirmed as far as the rest of the characters having somewhat of an ending, sort of leaked through many of these fake leaks online. But I think Tyrion's, for the most part, is going to happen. That's with him betraying Daenerys and then ultimately being killed in the dragon pit. Now let's go over this first official image that has been released to go along with Game of Thrones Season 8. Oh my god, I know you can probably hear it in my voice right now, but I'm freaking ecstatic. When I saw this in my newsfeed scrolling through Twitter, I literally dropped my phone and spazzed out. Okay, so, just sort of analyzing this image here, we do see that Jon Snow has continued growing out his beard. Now, his costume sort of pretty much looks the exact same. And we did have the image that was never confirmed by HBO, but most of us know that this image of Sansa hugging Jon did not take place in Game of Thrones Season 7, and it definitely didn't take place in Season 6. So, as far as we know, this, technically, between Jon and Sansa is the first image, but really, the first official release, from HBO, super high resolution, is this image of Jon Snow and Daenerys. Now, Daenerys' costume, I think for the most part, that coat is the same. I do know that they've added a bit of fur around the top part, and it also looks like they laid in red inseams, and she's also got these, Targaryen red gloves. In my opinion, this sort of signifies that Daenerys and Jon Snow will, in fact, be of one this coming season. They're going to be a united front, but also we do have some spoilers to tag along with this information. Now, at some point during the process that the person who wrote this article, while they were filming the Titanic Studios, they were actually treated to information in regards to Daenerys and Jon Snow arriving in Winterfell the very first episode. Now, Watchers on the Wall had actually leaked that the very first scene will take place in Wintertown outside of Winterfell, but we never really knew what Jon and Daenerys was going to be doing in that first episode. I kind of predicted that they would get there at the end of the episode, and then we'd see, the awkwardness of the reunion between all these characters who, one, have either never met each other, or two, freaking hate each other. I thought that would be saved for the second episode, but it sounds like they arrive in the first episode, and they also mentioned that this Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 1 has an amazing amount of callbacks to Game of Thrones Season 1 Episode 1. So what are some of the key things that happened in that episode? Well, obviously, we have Robert's caravan arriving there and meeting with the Starks. This is where we meet the pretentious Jaime, the beautifully attractive Cersei, but we all know something was a little bit off with her. And then we meet the fat Robert, who at first comes off as a dickhead, but we quickly find out that he's best friends with Ned Stark. So there's going to be something similar to that happening in Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 1. For the most part, I think Emilia Clarke and Maisie Williams' interactions together are going to be fucking gold, and I cannot wait to see those on screen. Arya and Daenerys, two of the greatest female warriors the show has ever offered, in the same scene, along with Brienne, and then Lyanna Mormont's probably going to be, oh my god, it's going to be insane. I cannot freaking wait. So just to re-clarify, or reiterate real quick, so far, the reactions that we've gotten from Daenerys, Tyrion, and Sansa, I think Sansa's confirms her death, Tyrion confirms his death, and then Daenerys' confirms that she is somewhat alive in the very end. Then also, we have the potential release date being as soon as March of 2019, and then what we most recently talked about, which was the fact that the first episode is going to have Jon and Daenerys arriving back to Winterfell. Okay, and to wrap out this video, we're going to discuss two more spoilers. Now, this one is from a direct description of the article, and this article is linked down below in the description, so make sure you go read it fully for yourself. But they mention how, like Kit Harington, when they arrived at the Game of Thrones Season 8 set, they didn't really know what was going on. Now, apparently, Episode 6 was what's being filmed. So the quote starts off with, "Like Harrington, into the table read, I didn't know anything about the final season storyline. I looked around at a meticulously constructed set that I've never seen on the show before. Several actors are performing, and I'm stunned. This is the most important part. There are characters in the finale that I did not expect. I gradually begin to piece together what has happened in Westeros over the previous 5 episodes and try not to look like I'm freaking out." Okay, you got me freaking out, my dude. I don't even want to continue reading more because I can't really focus on making this. Okay, so what's most likely going on here is if this is the final episode of Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 6, and he's in Winterfell, well, that means either Winterfell's being reconstructed or somehow it's going to survive the blowing up or the burning of it in Game of Thrones, which I think it will take place in Episode 3 of Season 8. I'm not really sure. Those are definitely more confirmed spoilers. They burn the entire set of Winterfell down for the most part. As far as who those characters are that they weren't expecting to be there, I don't know. I mean, for the most part, we all do know that about, I'd say, 30 to 40% of this main tier cast, which all of the second tier cast got upped to main tier cast. So I say about 30 to 40% of them are going to be dead. One person that would shock me to be in Winterfell in the last episode would be Cersei. But I'm going to save this sort of speculation for you guys in the comment section. Let's figure it out. Now, another thing that they quickly mentioned during this is that there was a massive battle that makes the Battle of the Bastards, according to Peter Dinklage, looks like a theme park. It took double the amount of time that Battle of the Bastards took, which at that time in season 6 was a record. That battle took something like 27 odd days of actual filming, day in and day night, of all these thousands of extras out there. It was nuts. Now this 55 night long battle in Game of Thrones Season 8 is going to take place in an episode that is literally, well, we know it's the fight between the living and the army of the dead, but it's going to take place the entire episode. You can't build something up for 10 years and have a 12-minute battle sequence, according to DB Weiss. So this episode will be wall-to-wall packed with freaking action. I cannot wait. And if you want to know more about some of the leaked information that's happened during that battle, check the link down below in the description, and you can go and watch a video I made about that. Then last but not least, I'm going to leave you guys with this in this video. This is a quote that is taken from the Entertainment Weekly article. Now they go on to say, Season 8 opens at Winterfell with an episode that contains plenty of callbacks to the show's pilot. Instead of King Robert's procession arriving, it's Daenerys and her army. What follows is a thrilling and intense intermingling of characters, some of whom have never previously met, many of whom have messy histories, as they all prepare to face the inevitable invasion of the army of the dead. It's all about these desperate characters coming together to face a common enemy, dealing with their own past and defining the person that they want to be in the face of certain death, co-executive producer Brian Cogman says. It's an incredibly emotional, haunting, bittersweet final season, and I think it honors very much what George set out to do, which is flipping this kind of story on its head. What exactly is this kind of story, Mr. Cogman? It's an insane, you can't really describe it with one word. It's gonna be nuts. The main drama is that, or the main, genre, I guess, would be that a prince and a queen fight evil. Usually what happens is the good guys win. Well, if it's flipped on its head, maybe the bad guys win, or maybe one of the good guys has to replace the bad guy. Alright, now I've yapped enough of you guys' ears off. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could please slap a like on this. The like goal is going to be 420. Make sure you're subscribed, and then make sure every notification's turned on so that way you get alerted every single time I drop a Game of Thrones video throughout this soon ending long nights. Super special shout out to every single member of my Patreon family over on patreon.com/SirHuntsReviews. I want to thank you all again so much for watching. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunts. The long night's almost over. Reviews.